This is the part that I'm dreading, is working on these small spalls. Mainly because I think I'm going to break a few on video. And I went ahead and modified this so that I would take off those two facets and just make it one facet. That way I don't have much choice. And I want to make sure that I'm following through on these strikes and not paying too much attention to where on the billet I'm striking, because when I start doing that, I'm afraid I'll hit too high. So I'll just not give myself an option as far as this goes by just having one facet and following through on the strikes. Just in my mind making sure that the object is to follow through. That way, hopefully the subconscious knows that, I can't follow through if I'm going to hit on top. It's got to do that. It's got to glance. Okay. So that's what I've been thinking about since the last video. These small bifaces. I kind of stopped quickly when I was finishing this one. I didn't really do a post analysis of this. There's a lump right here that I didn't remove. And with direct percussion, I wouldn't risk it. But with indirect percussion, I would probably dull this area right here and send in a flake into this high spot. From the edge here, there's a high spot into this area to try to tame it. But it's not bad, And of course I didn't do the measurement. Keep forgetting to do that. And I didn't do the preliminary thinning flakes on the notches. So maybe I'll remember this time. 40 millimeters by, the thickest part would be 11 millimeters. And right here where I took the width is 6.5. Let's just call it 7 to 40. It's close to 6 to 1. 42 would be 6 to 1. And what would I call that? I don't know. I'd call that good enough. All right. So let's see. Same material, and this is the last piece. I'm going to work for a while of this type of material. It's very annoying. It's very easy to snap in half. So yeah, I'm going to see what I can do with this. Normally I would make a long blade, use the modern tools, indirect percussion, and make one of those long blades with a wrapped handle. But for this video, I'm going to see what I can do with the billet. Following through with the strikes. And yes, doing the little annoying check every time. This worries me, hitting on the ends, because even though it's thick, it will snap right in the middle. Axis deer is really good stuff. Axis deer antler. I was grinding this down and it felt just like bone, which means it's very dense. It's good for this swiping stuff. And the better I get at the platforms, the less force I need to remove these flakes. I'm trying different types of platforms. You know, some straight, some kind of rounded, some kind of pointed. See which ones work better. These are kind of pointed, kind of sharp. So it's, when they're sharp, it doesn't swipe as good as when they're a little bit smoother. So I should just smooth it down whenever possible. Okay, I got to get into these little areas. Let's see, hit a little bit high on that one. Let's see, how much am I going to lose off the tip? If I know how much I'm going to lose because it's just not symmetrical, I can take it off now and drive some more flakes into this area to maybe thin it down by removing this whole ridge here. But that would require a nice big platform and a strike like this. Normally I wouldn't be afraid to do it, but this material, I don't trust this material. Yeah, I think I can do that. Isolate it a little bit better. Okay, let's see. Follow through, follow through. That's the general idea. See what happens when I make the platforms more pointy. It's a little bottle over there I have saved up, by the way. 40 ounce. Is it 40 ounce? Yep. For some reason I have a hard time finding the 40 ounce unless I go to a convenience store. Grocery stores all have the 32 ounce for the most part, around here anyway. But the 40 ounce has the best bottle bottom. Just as a side note. Now see, on this, I'm afraid to hit it this way. If I was left-handed, or correct-handed, like some of you. Yeah, there's no way. I've been asked to try to flint knap the other way. Flint knap left-handed. No thank you. Well, I said I would try. Maybe I need to drink one of those beers first. I don't know. I don't want to try it. Not yet. It would be very hard. Just like starting over, almost. It's not. I wanted to travel further. Golly, what am I doing? It's getting scary. I'm just trying to create a platform on this side so that I can hit it with my proper hand. I'm hitting right into it, but I don't know what it's trying to do. It seems to me it should be going flatter, but it's not. Oh well. It'll eventually make it. Scary stuff. It's starting to get kind of wonky, so I might not end up with a straight point. I'm hitting in the wrong spot. I normally don't have any issues with this type of situation, but I'm getting disoriented. All right. Getting disoriented, not knowing or forgetting where the contours are, forgetting how to straighten, forgetting how to hold this within the frame because I'm trying to focus on the billet. So just bear with me. I'll get it eventually. I gotta back it up, so the only way it feels like I can back it up is if I hold it in this fashion, and it's moving away from me. Yeah. Now, if using a billet is not really effective, why insist on using a billet? I want to see how effective it actually can be. And if it's not effective, if I can't get good with it, then it would be stupid for me to continue. But if it ends up being effective, then it's one of the good alternatives. This is not really a swiping setup on a tip. What I'm doing is I'm gouging it like my old technique. That way I could take these little flakes without worrying. I can use my old mentality, my old technique, and my old muscle memory to gouge out some of these flakes so I don't mess up the tip. But if I can use the swiping, I will. Yeah, that needs a proper setup. Alright, so it feels like it's grabbing it a lot, so you know what that means. It's going to risk it. Maybe I should grind this down because it's not catching in the right way. I'm hitting with this part. See if this will work better. Instead of doing this, do this. I think I know why I'm having trouble keeping it in the frame. When I move the phone this way, it's kind of out of the way, and I can move this down. If I move it up to compensate for me drifting upward, if I move it up, it's in my way. I can't see that. I got to do this, and now I can see it. I think that's why it's creeping upward. So I'm just going to keep it down this way, and I'm looking just barely above the camera to see that. Yeah, I need a proper platform. If I don't have a proper platform on right in the middle here, it's going to end in disaster. I'm going to make these platforms pointy. I was reviewing the last video, and I think it'll help if I consistently make the platform in one way and see what happens. If it doesn't work, I'll change it. Pointy for now. Okay. Perfectly not good. That little short flake worked perfectly. The one that wasn't supposed to happen. Alright. Okay. Opportunistic. Let's do some opportunistic ones. Now, before you start saying anything about why these are crushing, it's because I'm new to it. I could make any of these work if I had more experience. I cannot be coached into having more experience. I know that these are messing up for some reason, but even if I have all the answers in my head, it doesn't mean that it's going to translate to actually being able to take advantage of that kind of knowledge. I have to use the muscle memory ultimately to get these done. I'm choking up on this to increase the accuracy. Now There are times when advice helps, right? If someone tells you you're just holding it wrong. But as far as the actual striking goes, that's what I'm talking about. You can't instruct someone on the striking part. You can instruct someone on the holding, the angles, the force. Those things you can control. But as far as striking goes, the actual strike itself, that is a muscle memory type of activity. You can instruct someone how to set up the initial conditions. Those are controllable for the most part. But the striking is controllable, yes, but through habit. Striking is controllable through habit, through practice. So if you have advice for someone on how to make the strike itself and what you're feeling when you're doing the striking, it's not going to help very much, because you can't impart muscle memory to someone like you can imparting the posture and the initial setup. Now there is, we can split hairs, we can do nitpickety comments on this. There is the aspect of telling someone that you need to make sure you have certain characteristics of the strike, like it's got to drag a little bit, it's got to be inward and downward. Those are initial conditions, or conditions that you're setting up for. Yes, I know it's got to drag. I know it has to drag. But to getting it to drag is not something I think about during the drag. I hope I'm clear about that. Dragging it is practice. It'll get there. Knowing how it does this doesn't really help very much. You got to practice it so you can, after a while you can feel it. Hopefully. I say hopefully because sometimes I've tutored people and they don't know that somehow their hand-eye coordination doesn't translate to language, or language doesn't translate to hand-eye coordination. So they really have no idea if it's dragging or not. They have no idea if they're actually swiping. They're just doing it over and over and over, and if it works, it works. And they know why it works and how it works. But they don't feel anything. It doesn't register as a feeling. It doesn't feel like it's doing something that I can detect. I've had people tell me that it doesn't feel like what you're telling me it should be feeling like. Okay. So that's always possible too. I could be telling you that it feels a certain way and it just won't register that way with you. I think. Right? Okay. I'll try for a long flick here, see what happens. I kind of have this exasperation. Anytime it's going to go. Oh well. See, I think that two-step flake, one and then two, and the length of it was caused by the actual technique to generate more power for a longer period of time through the swipe, to cause it not to stop there but to continue. The longer you are in contact with the platform, the more pressure goes through there, so I think that's why it caused that flake extension, this flake extension here, because normally it probably would have stopped right there with a normal strike, gouging strike, hammerstone, whatever, without much follow through. But with follow through, it popped another piece off, which is good. It's a good thing. Okay, I'm going to up the speed on here because I need to get a good flake on that. Let's see. Isolate. Let me see. Where is the pad? Yes, it does pain me a little bit to lose that width, but oh well. I'm keeping the platform pointy throughout this whole exercise to see how well it works. Doesn't look that good to me, but we'll see. I hit directly on it. Okay, so I need to hit with more follow through. I wanted to go this way. I went that way. Path of least resistance. I hit it in this direction to follow this mass, but it said, this is less resistance on this side. Alrighty then. I did get rid of some of this, right? Yeah, it did clear off some of that. I gotta isolate something on this area here. The secret is continuous platform and then find out where you want to hit. So, I keep misplacing my pad. Anyway, the idea is a continuous platform is the easiest way to think about this. And then figure out where to hit or to isolate. Where you want to hit is where you want to isolate. So I don't want to hit exactly here into this ridge. I want to hit more into the meat of this so that it doesn't do the same thing again. Now if I hit here, it's going to want to do path of least resistance toward this direction. I want it to go that way, so I need to probably isolate further up here. Right, isolate up here somewhere. This is one of the initial conditions that you do have control over. So in that respect, this is something I can instruct you on directly without you having too much practice, unless you don't unless you're not good at this pressure flaking I'm doing, then I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna lose way too much width here, but that's just the name of the game, I suppose. It's not only the width before you strike, but how much am I going to be left with in thickness after I strike. I don't want it to be too weak after the strike. All right, next segment.